What's going on, everyone? Blizzard dropped a ton of 10.2 information last Thursday, and I know I'm a little bit behind, but I wanted to give my first impressions on the brand new Amir tier set bonuses for Enhancement Shaman. And I do expect that these will probably be tuned a little bit after I make this video, but compared to our previous set bonuses, I think that this is in a much more solid first state than the last two bonuses were initially. Before I go any further, let's just pop up these tier set bonuses on the screen and just quickly read through them. The 2 set bonus is Primordial Wave now summons a Lightning Feral Spirit that increases our nature damage by 20% for 15 seconds, and the 4 set bonus is Summoning a Feral Spirit now reduces the cooldown of Primordial Wave by 7 seconds, and getting more wolves and getting more Primordial Waves for this just sounds amazing. I'm loving the idea of this tier set so far, and I can't wait to actually get to play with it. When I first read this, my mind went directly to the Elementalist talent setup, especially with Mythic Plus in mind. The idea of getting so many more Primordial Waves off now and having such consistent burst damage available just seems like it's going to make that build just incredibly good. Plus, the 2 set bonus means we'll always have that 20% boost to our Lightning Bolt damage that's already being buffed up by Primordial Wave, and on top of any other Lightning Bolts we'll have from Elemental Spirits. I'm just super excited to play the Elementalist setup, and I think that it's all going to work super well together, and there shouldn't really be any talent changes to that build specifically. However, when it comes to the Storm single target and Storm Cleave builds, I was a little bit worried about how this tier set would fit in with those builds, especially because they don't currently run Primordial Wave. But after looking at the talent setups, I do think it'll be pretty easy for the Storm single target build to switch over a point into the Primordial Wave. However, the Storm Cleave build I do think is going to be a bit more dead, and we'll be seeing a different Storm AOE build. So let's take a quick look here at the Storm single target build to start off with. Where can we pick up a point to move into Primordial Wave? Now, I don't think we need to go all the way down into Splintered Elements here, nor do we have the points to be able to do that while keeping the right side of the tree and then the middle section anyways. So we're really just going to be picking up Primordial Wave here, and in order to do that, my first thought was, well, maybe we can just drop our point in Molten Assault and move that down. However, as you can see, we actually need that point on the top side of the tree, otherwise we won't have the bottom set unlocked. So that's 1 point really needs to come from somewhere down here. As a side note, this is a fantastic quality of life change that Blizzard made on the PTR, so I'm very excited to see this come to live in the future. So I'll go ahead, put that point back in here, and so looking down here, what point can we actually move over? Well, we don't want to touch the right side of the tree. We don't want to touch Feral Spirit, obviously. Legacy of the Frost Witch, we need to keep 1 point in here. It's good because it gives us that physical damage increase after using 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, but more importantly, it's also giving us that Storm Strike reset when we really need it. So definitely important to keep this point here. Aside from that, that leaves us with either Witch Doctor's Ancestry or Elemental Assault. And I think out of these two, if we had to remove a point, I think Elemental Assault is going to be the better option. This is going to reduce our Storm Strike damage by 10%, but I think that getting the extra damage from the 3rd Feral Spirit Wolf from our tier set and getting the lightning and nature damage increase from that wolf that's summoned there will more than make up for that. Plus, Primordial Wave's damage has been increased by 500% on PTR, so you can see the difference that makes between live and PTR, how big of a difference that is. So Primordial Wave on its own should be doing a decent amount of damage, and I think all of that together is going to more than make up for that 1 point difference in Elemental Assault. And the reason I don't think we want to drop a point in Witch Doctor's Ancestry is getting as much Feral Spirit cooldown reduction as possible is going to be even more important now, not only to keep our wolves up, but this will allow us to get more Primordial Waves off and then have even more wolves up from that. So that's why I'm thinking that Elemental Assault is going to be the better option to drop a point from. Now, when it comes to the Storm Cleave build, I think things are a bit more interesting. So if I go ahead and swap my talents over here. So this is pretty much the typical Storm Cleave build that you'll see right now. And the setup here is probably going to be pretty significant going forward, because let's say if we wanted to move just 1 point from Frostwitch over into Primordial Wave, you could do this, but it's probably not going to be super effective because the power of Primordial Wave is really going to come in when you have Flame Shock spread to multiple targets, especially in AOE, and this build just does not run Lava Lash or Molten Assault currently, so you don't get that Flame Shock spread at all. So I think we're going to look at doing a completely different build for Mythic Plus if you are running a Storm focus build. Now I will say that I think the Elementalist setup for Mythic Plus is still going to be by far the better option. But if you like running a build like this, what might that look like going forward? Well, let's go ahead, reset the right side of the tree here, start from the beginning. We know there's certain talents we're gonna go for. We know we're probably gonna take this left path of the tree up here to get Doom Winds. We know we want to end up getting this bottom right half of the tree to make this a true Storm build. And we know that we're gonna take points in Lava Lash and probably 2 points in the Molten Assault. This will be the difference between spreading Flame Shock to just 2 targets or 4 targets. I would venture to say you probably want to spread to 4 targets, but let's go ahead and start putting points in the tree here. So like I said, we'll put that down there and then along the left side here as well. And then we want the center of the tree for all these Maelstrom improving talents. And then going farther down, definitely want to run Crash Lightning, Crashing Storms, and Elemental Weapons. And then pick up Doom Winds over here on the side as well. From here, we can probably put a point into Wind Fury Totem. This will act more as a flex type of point, depending on if you are running with melee or not. You could possibly drop this, but let's see how the talents kind of round out here. Sundering, definitely a must-have for AoE situations. And then at this point, we want to start looking at talents that are going to affect Storm Strike. So Storm Flurry, going to be a great option here. Storm's Wrath, a good option here. And right below that, Storm Blast, I think is going to be a good option because that's going to make Storm Strike deal additional nature damage. And that's going to be boosted by that nature damage increase wolf that we're going to be getting from using Primordial Wave. So I would say put a point into that and Primordial Wave as well. And then at the center, always want to take Feral Spirit, always want 2 points into Witch Doctor's Ancestry. And Alpha Wolf, I think, is going to continue to be a good value pick here. The wolf summoned from Primordial Wave does proc this, and so that should be pretty consistently 3 wolves up at least proccing this, and I think that would be good damage. And then we can round this out by taking our points into the bottom half of the tree here. And I think this is going to be a fairly solid Mythic Plus setup for Storm build if you do want to go that route. Alternatively, you could maybe drop a point from Molten Assault here and put that into, like, say, the Frost Switch. There's probably some simming to do to see where the optimal last few points are in this. Potentially even moving a point into Converging Storms might be good as well. And then another path you could go with this is to actually pick up Fire Nova. I think Fire Nova is still going to be good if you are at that 6 target count. And on top of that, if you take Fire Nova and Swirling Currents, you're getting a ton of Maelstrom weapon stack generation. Basically, if you have Fire or Flame Shock on 6 targets, Fire Nova is going to give you 12 seconds of Feral Spirit cooldown on a 12-second cooldown depending on your haste. And that's going to equate to even more Primordial Waves now. So that's all going to flow really well together, and you could go that route too. I think in order to do that, you're looking at dropping this point from, like, say, the Frost Switch, putting that back into Molten Assault, and then probably needing to drop Wind Fury Totem to move to Fire Nova and Storm Blast to move to Swirling Maelstrom. And I think, again, this should be a fairly decent Mythic Plus setup, but probably not going to beat out the same typical Elementalist setup that we've been running for the past 2 patches. Alright, just to wrap up my thoughts here and close out this video, I think this tier set is looking really good. I think it should be pretty fun. I love using Primordial Waves, so the fact that we're just going to be spamming out even more of these Primordial Waves for burst damage is going to be great, especially for Mythic Plus. I am curious to see if there's any other tuning coming for Enhancement. Otherwise, our gameplay isn't changing too terribly much next patch, it seems. But at this point, we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and have a nice day.